Hello everyone, it's your Peacekeeper, and it's time for the next video in our How to Play series on the Royal Navy Battleship line. This is the Tier 9 Lion class of battleship. The Lion class was a class of 6 planned fast battleships designed for the Royal Navy in the late 1930s. The premise of the class was an enlarged and upgunned 16-inch version of the King George V class. The 6 ships were Lion, Temeraire, Conqueror, Thunderer, and, well, the last 2 weren't actually named, and they weren't ever laid down. Due to the removal of treaty limitations during the design process, the class never really... It underwent several design proposals during construction that kind of delayed things to the point where the ships were never ultimately finished. The overall design called for 3 3-gun turrets mounted on a King George V hull with 16-inch guns in it, while only maintaining a 6,000 long-ton increase in overall displacement. Due to this requirement, 2 of the 5.25-inch gun mounts were removed from the secondary battery, and armor was slightly reduced overall, primarily with the removal of a heavily armored conning tower. The propulsion setup for the King George V class was retained to save engineering and construction time, as was the main armor deck configuration of the torpedo protection system. This drastically sped up design time, but by the time 1942 rolled around, the ship's first redesign was already being worked on and completed, while the first 4 ships were already under construction. They reduced the main armor belt from 14.7 inches thick to just 13.7 inches thick, except over the magazines, and the aircraft handling facilities were removed. The space created by the removal of those facilities was turned into additional space for anti-aircraft guns. They also widened and lengthened the ship to increase fuel stores so that the ship had longer endurance. In 1944, they underwent yet another redesign with a newer 16-inch gun design, and a shell that was heavier than the one that preceded it. And then they decided they were going to replace the 8-barreled 40mm pom-poms with 9 sextuple Bofors, 6-barreled Bofors, plus a large number of 20mm Oerlikons. Due to this and the destroyed British economy during World War II, towards the end of the war, the ships were never actually completed. The 2 that were laid down, Lion and Temeraire, had plans drawn up to convert the ships to hybrid aircraft carriers, similar to what the U.S. had planned for the unfinished USS Kentucky, which was an Iowa-class hull. The design was ultimately rejected, and as a result, the 2 laid-down hulls were scrapped well before completion. That would have been an interesting design, because basically it would have been an aircraft carrier where the back half of it was the flight deck, a very long flight deck, and it retained the 2 forward guns, if I remember correctly. That's what the Kentucky proposal was. And what they decided was that it really wasn't an effective design. It had too many compromises in both aircraft hangar space as well as storage space and armor for protecting the magazines. And so the design really did not end up working out at all. In terms of in-game playstyle, Lion returns to the flexibility of the King George V, with improved gun accuracy over Monarch, as well as better armor-piercing performance. The ship also sees a massive increase in HE performance as well. Lion is the first non-premium Royal Navy battleship to see the super heel come into play. Of course, Nelson and, to a limited extent, Hood have one. And both those being Tier 7 battleships. And it needs it, due to the poor resistance to high explosive shell spam, due to the 32mm of armor everywhere scheme that Wargaming has chosen for them. Overall resistance to armor-piercing rounds, while angled, is good, but care must be taken not to expose too much side profile, as the ship does eat heavy penetration damage, like King George V and Monarch does. And part of the problem with this is that rear gun turret angle is really not all that good. I mean, we'll see this a little bit in the battle, but you really have to expose an unhealthy amount of the broadside of the ship to bring that rear turret to play. So for those of you who are familiar with how Iowa plays with the bow forward meta, you pretty much have down the way that this ship plays pretty heavily. Anti-aircraft is also pretty good when spec'd into it, but if you're not spec'd into it, it's really quite average. Nothing really to take home there. But what isn't average, though, is the concealment and maneuverability. This ship's 11.5 kilometer detection range by sea is unprecedented for a Tier 9 battleship, and its relative maneuverability, with its tighter turning radius and quick rudder shift time, make it one of the more maneuverable battleships at this tier. The ship's biggest weakness, though, is its lack of adequate torpedo and high explosive shell resistance. This ship is very easy to destroy with torpedoes and high explosive. Overall, though, the ship is a very fun ship to play and one worth keeping in port if you enjoy the play style of the Royal Navy battleships. Let's go over some stats. Hit points. She has 67,900 hit points, up to 381 millimeters of armor. This is going to be in the main armor belt here. 27% torpedo damage reduction, which is not very good in the grand scheme of things. I think that's pretty comparable to the Iowa class ships. Let me scroll down here to the Missouri. Yep, exactly the same, actually. Overall, like I said, it's not a very good torpedo damage reduction. It does not take torpedoes very well. The main battery consists of, in this game, we have the optional 16-inch 45 caliber Mark IV guns, which are those upgraded guns that we talked about in the 1944 design proposal. But we also have access to the 419 millimeter or 16.5-inch guns, and quite honestly, there's no reason to take the 16-inch guns. They have the same exact reload time, high explosive damage is better, and the fire chance is higher on the 16.5-inch guns. Plus, the armor piercing doesn't suck, which is also nice. The secondary battery consists of 8 dual 134 millimeter or 5.25-inch guns. They do have a firing range of 5.3 kilometers. That's going to be without advanced firing training on the captain. By the time you throw AFT on it, it'll buff it out a little bit, but secondaries are not the strong suit of the Royal Navy battleships, nor are close-in brawl fights. Main battery firing range, 20.7 kilometers, 48% fire chance, 7,200 HE shell damage, 13,000 shell damage for a Citadel hit with armor piercing. There is a difference in AP and HE shell velocity. The HE does fire faster at almost 800 meters per second, and the reload time is down to 26.4 seconds, but that's by virtue of the reload upgrade module. Anti-aircraft defense, we have 4 single 40mm Bofors, 6 dual 40mm Bofors, 10 sextuple 40mm Bofors, and these things are wicked looking. Look at these things. That is just nuts. Even the duals look pretty crazy, too. Look at that. That is a radar dish thrown up there. Okay, and of course those 5.25-inch, the 8 dual 5.25-inch gun mounts, those are also part of your secondaries. AA bubble starts at 4.5 kilometers. Again, this is without advanced firing training or any of the anti-aircraft range boosting upgrades. So you could boost this further if you wanted to spec into anti-aircraft to have a very formidable anti-aircraft suite. Max speed of 31 knots, which isn't really all that good, especially when you have ships like Iowa at this tier that are traveling at 33, but 31 knots is still pretty respectable. But 830 meter turning radius, which is tighter than the Iowa is, and 12.7 second rudder shift time, which is very comparable. 11.5 kilometer detection range by sea, 10.2 by air. Let's talk about some upgrades. In the first upgrade slot, I'm taking Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1. Again, the reason why I'm taking this over anything else is because I'm running preventative maintenance on the captain, which takes over where main Armaments Mod 1 would go. This is a common upgrade that people take. That's that 20% reduction in the chance of your main battery becoming incapacitated, increasing its hit point pool by 50%, and decreasing the time it takes to repair it by 20%. But Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1 allows me to double the hit point pool of my anti-aircraft mounts as well as my secondary mounts. Not that I care too much about the secondaries, but it's there. If you are afraid of, going hood, there is magazine mod 1 there for the 70% reduction in the chance of your magazine getting detonated. But overall, I recommend auxiliary armaments mod 1 if you are running preventative maintenance on your captain. That way your anti-aircraft remains in the fight longer for those rare moments that a tier 9 aircraft carrier shows up, or tier 10 or tier 8 aircraft carrier shows up. In the second slot, I'm going to recommend running Damage Control Systems Mod 1. This is a 3% reduction in the chance of flooding, as well as a 3% reduction in the damage caused by the torpedo, as well as a 5% reduction in the risk of being started on fire. These other two modules really don't play much of a role on a tier 9 battleship. If we were playing a cruiser, I might recommend them, or a destroyer. But battleships don't lose their engine or steering gears often enough, and when they do, usually the repair party is up to take care of that. In the third slot, I'm running Aiming Systems Mod 1 for the 7% reduction in the main battery dispersion, as well as, the 5% increase into the maximum firing range of the secondaries, as well as a 5% reduction in the dispersion of said secondaries. Speaking of secondaries, I don't recommend running Secondary Battery Mod 2. Again, the ship just doesn't have the secondary capability to actually brawl. You could run AA Guns Mod 2 for the 20% increase in your anti-aircraft guns firing range, which if you just, carriers ever do come back in force, I will probably switch from Aiming Systems Mod 1 to AA Guns Mod 2, just for a little bit better anti-aircraft durability on this. Well, not durability, but a little bit more durability for the ship because of better AA. Main battery mod 2, this ship is not really a close-in brawler, so we don't need any faster turret traverse. Once you start running expert marksman on your captain, the turret traverse issue isn't really an issue, and so we don't need to run this module because we're primarily staying at the mid to long ranges. In the fourth slot, I'm running steering gears mod 2 for the 20% reduction in your rudder shift time. You could run Propulsion Systems Mod 2 or Damage Control Systems Mod 2. Of these two, I would choose Damage Control Systems Mod 2 for the 15% reduction in the time it takes to extinguish fires, as well as 15% reduction in the time it takes to recover from flooding. However, I personally prefer to avoid getting hit by the shells. Plus, I find that Steering Gears Mod 2 just helps out that much more when it comes to ducking either in between or away from incoming torpedoes, so that's why I prefer running the steering gears versus Damage Control Systems Mod 2. Plus, the ship's agility is one of its strengths, so buffing it further makes it that much better. In the fifth slot, I am running Concealment Systems Mod 1 for the 10% reduction in detection range, primarily. That allows us to get down to that 11.5 kilometer detection range by sea. And that's, like I said, one of the strong suits of the ship. You can really play the ship like a stealth build Iowa, but you have that much more range that you can get closer. Almost 3/4 of a kilometer better detection than the Iowa class or the Alabamas. And that makes this ship very lethal to cruisers, provided you can get yourself into position where you can take out the cruiser and then stealth back up again. Target Acquisition Systems Mod 1 really isn't a very good option for this ship, simply because the stealth is one of the stronger aspects of it. Yeah, okay, we add, 1.2 kilometers or so to the detection range, and it's still pretty good with that. However, I would much rather be at 11.5 than 12.7, and the increased detection range of torpedoes, if that's really a concern for you, is better made up with vigilance than with this mod. That's just my opinion of it. Take that for what it's worth. In the final slot, we have a slew of options here that we could take, but I am running Main Battery Mod 3 for the reduction in reload time of the main battery by 12%. This gets us down to that 26.4 second reload time, and just helps up the DPM of the ship quite substantially, actually. The reduction in turret traverse speed really isn't that big of a loss, especially since the ship is best played at the mid to long ranges. We don't need any additional range. 20.7 kilometers is quite adequate, so I don't see running Gunfire Control Systems Mod 2 as being my choice. This ship's accuracy at longer ranges isn't good enough to really take advantage of this. so I don't see any reason to run it. AA Guns Mod 3, again, if you were planning on building this ship towards a anti-aircraft role, this is definitely a solid upgrade. It's going to increase the DPS of your AA gun mounts by 25%, and it is going to turn the ship into an effective anti-aircraft barge. The last option in this is Secondary Battery Mod 3, and quite honestly, I don't recommend this again for the same reason that we talked about the other secondary modules. The secondaries on the ship really aren't very good, and the ship doesn't thrive in the brawling environment like some other ships do that could better take advantage of a secondary battery upgrade. So let's take one real quick look at the ammunition and consumables. As you can see here, Wargaming has chosen to give this ship the aircraft hangar that it did not have in real life, and so we do have a catapult fighter option or a spotting aircraft. In the repair party, though, look at these this damage heal back. 1,629 hit points per second for 20 seconds. That is insane. Absolutely insane. 114 second reload time is only with the flag on there, but 120 seconds without it. But still, look at that, 1,629 hit points per second. And you use your stealth, so when you get damaged heavily, you stealth back up, you heal, and you come back. And this ship with the survivability build is just absolutely insane. It's not the build that I'm personally running on it, but you can see how the ability to mitigate damage would be better in that, plus this ridiculous heal. Anyway, enough of talking about the ship in port. Let's go look at it in a battle video. Alright, so one of the downsides to Tier 9 is the frequent Tier 10 fights. Thankfully, the ship does pretty well in a Tier 10 fight. So we're going to get into this battle here, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about how it plays. Now, we did manage to luck out here and get into a Tier 8, Tier 9 fight. Well, Tier 7 through Tier 9 fight. However, this ship up-tiered, like I said, it does pretty well, provided that you continue to play it. Kind of like basically a fire-spamming Iowa? I mean, it doesn't always play that way, and you'll see in this battle the armor piercing does work out quite well. It's just a matter of getting yourself into the right position to use it, and with the good stealth on this ship, it's pretty easy to actually use it well. So the map, oh boy, it's this map. Not my favorite map in the whole wide world. Got 3 different choices on where we go, A, B, or C. That seems pretty standard. Anyway, generally on this map, I don't like going to A, I don't like going to C, I don't like going to B. Of the 3, I'd prefer to go to C, but I'm all the way over here at A. We're going to go guns right, and we're just going to kind of creep along for a little bit. That way we can kind of get an idea of how the flow of the battle is working out. At least generally that's what I do here, but apparently I am going to C. I'm guessing to see what I can see? Okay, that's a really bad pun. Anyway, so one of the like I've been talking about, the key aspects of the ship is that it has this really good stealth. And so those of you who have played the stealth build US Navy battleships, you understand quite well how this build works. You want to stay 12 kilometers from the nearest enemy. You want to shoot and put yourself into positions to shoot at any broadside that you can get. And that's not always easy to do. And some people really struggle with that, and I highly encourage you, if this is something that you really struggle with, the ship really is hard to play otherwise. Here you can see a little bit of the gun angles here. We're not quite angled fully, but we're pretty close. The ship's overall gun angles are pretty bad. So I much prefer this ship over Monarch. That's not a surprise to anyone. Monarch was a terrible ship for me. I did not enjoy it at all. It didn't seem to have any advantages over King George V. This ship does. I mean, we're boasting a much heavier firepower with very fast reload and pretty good accuracy, whereas we didn't quite have the same luck with other ships. So we got ourselves a Mahan here that we are going to engage. Kind of waiting to see what he does, because my impression is that he would go... Yeah, okay, so he's not. He's going to turn out. So we're going to put some rounds down. Oh, he's turning back in. Well, don't threaten me with a good time. Here's a normal penetration for you for 2820. That damage seems a little low, considering that a normal penetration with the 16-inch... Wow, we already lost a Fletcher. Nice. Considering that the normal penetration damage for like the 16-inch guns on the Iowa is like 4,000 something, but I'll take it. 2820 off of a Mahan, that's not too shabby. Who knows what happens there? Probably stacked up 2 overpens and penned into a turret, so we don't get to see the full pen damage. But we're going to continue on down this flank, mostly because we got a lot of island protection here. But more importantly is there are 2 destroyers over here. We got our our fighter plane up, and we're hoping that we can detect one of them. Kind of fishing around for targets to shoot at here, but we get spotted. That means that generally speaking there is a Mahan or Shiratsuyu or something over here. So turning ourselves out and away, hoping that we can spot these guys before their torpedoes come in. Aha! And he gives himself away. We're going to try and sneak some rounds in there. I don't think we're going to get any. Nope. So no hits there on him. We are already down. 2 destroyers have already died. 1 got close quarter experted. Wow. So at this point, we're going to turn ourselves back around. We don't want to spend too much time lingering over here, especially considering we have no cruisers up front leading the way. We have no destroyers over here that are trying to help us. Our destroyer is currently doing what I consider to be the right thing, and that's maintaining a hold on the cap to keep them from getting it. In the meantime, though, we are over in a position where we can use our stealth to an advantage. Hopefully without hitting this Friedrich der Gross. We're going to try and help our Benson with the Shiratsuyu, though. Really need to get rid of some of their destroyers, especially since we're down destroyers. And ours is using AP for some odd reason. Well, he's paying for it, for lack of a better phrase. Look at that shot cluster. Yep, you're dead. So down goes a Shiratsuyu, and now we can turn back and focus on this Mahan. We have lost every single one of our destroyers. Yep. This just got significantly harder is absolutely accurate. We have 0 destroyer support, and they still have 3 destroyers. Thankfully, they're down a cruiser now. So we're gonna keep going back over here, and we're kind of in the circling mode, and we got a couple of things that we've got to pay attention to and deal with. This isn't an impossible battle, but I'm really hoping that we can spot this Mahan before he gets too good of a opportunity on me. So again, very good shot cluster grouping there with the armor piercing. Probably should have had HE loaded, but because I didn't have it loaded, we just shot what we had. As you can see, I switched over. We still took basically 10k off of him, so make a video on how to win after your destroyer's YOLO. Well, that might be this video, and it actually is. This is a video for the Lion, but up to 15,000 damage, a sink. That was that Shiratsuyu, and now we need to make a rush to A because we don't have any caps. We are down a ship, so we've managed to at least even out the ship loss ratio here, but they still have 1 full cap and are capping a second one to us having none. But because we still have this Mahan somewhere over here, it looks like he was turning away, but we don't want to come real tight into this island and not have spotting out in front of us. Thankfully, this New Orleans is out there. Our fighter aircraft is up, so we should be good to spot some stuff. Using our stealth, really sailing broadside, kind of like a potato, but that's okay. We're not detected, so that's good. So we got ourselves a Friedrich der Gross. We're gonna go ahead and shoot some HE off at him, simply because that again is what we had loaded. And still pretty good shot cluster grouping, a little bit wider than normal, but damage-wise, didn't get any damage. Thanks, Wargaming! I appreciate the pens, but no damage. And once again, stealth right back up. And this is the trollish aspect of this ship's concealment. But because we do have this Izumo here, we need to help out our New Orleans, who is pushing in. 4,700 damage and a fire on the Izumo. Ooh, Rune popped up. Or sorry, Ron. That's not a word that I'm good at pronouncing. So these Izumo burned his repair party on that fire, which means that our next salvo that we can get a fire on is a fire that's going to stick. Pretty good there. And 2 fires. So another 4,700 damage, but we're going to add 2 fires to the mix. And he's going to spend some time burning. Quick switch to AP to try and help out our New Orleans with this rune here, who is sailing distinctly broadside to us, probably expecting me to maintain the use of HE, but that's not how I roll. I'd much rather see him die. So we will lop off 8,100 damage, and our New Orleans finishes him off while we switch to dealing with the Izumo. We do have to be careful with this Iowa here, but he's behind an island. We're going to end up splitting the difference between the two and praying that we can get on this Izumo's flank fast enough to take him out. So guns, he's traversing his guns to try and take out this New Orleans. I'm going to take 17,000 hit points off of him in one salvo. We are already up to the server average damage. You can see him holding off the repair party for right now until we get a little bit more damage, and there it goes. Now watch how quickly this hit point pool comes back. And I probably could have waited a little bit longer, but my problem is we're stuck in this battle with this Izumo, and there's an Iowa over there. I don't want to lose too many hit points to him. Reload comes up, we sink the Izumo. 80,989 damage, and now it's time to deal with the Mayhem. And look at this shot cluster. Oh my goodness. 2,600 damage and 2 overpens, leave him with 85. Shots incoming, and he goes down to the Friedrich Gross secondaries. So we're doing pretty good here. Iowa is taking advantage of our very broadside profile, but only managed to get 2 overpens. So now this Iowa is in a really bad spot. You can see, even though I've got AP loaded, I'm not aiming at his waterline, taking 8,500 damage off of the superstructure. And the reason for this is it seems like the Royal Navy has a much shorter shell fuse time, which makes shooting at the superstructure with AP effective. But since he is bow onto us and AP has limited use at this point, we're going to go ahead and switch to HE. You can see we're under fire from a King George V. That is an actual threat. It'd be nice to have a Cyclone right about now to help, even some of this out, but unfortunately we don't. So we're going to have to deal with this Iowa. Now, you can see I slammed on my brakes here, and the reason for that is simple. This Iowa would probably fairly easily take me out if I didn't have support. So I've got this Friedrich Gross, I've got this Iowa. Both of them are taking on profiles that are attracting this guy's fire, which allows me to cap much easier. But we're going to start him on fire twice after we already started him on fire before, which means that he is now on fire for the duration. And that is one of the advantages of this ship's HE capabilities. And look at the repair party consumable. You can see that gray area there where I can repair all that back. That's pretty unusual. This Iowa is on fire in 3 different places, however. So, trying to get the last fire there, about 3,500 damage to the back half of him. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to burn our repair party. And look at how quickly this comes back up. And we're already back into the green. So this is twice now we've used our repair party consumable. And having superintendent on your captain really helps you out in this regard. King George V is there, but Iowa is going down. Can we kill him? There he goes. The Friedrich Gross gets the kill with the HE. I'm trying to back up to the point where I'm no longer detected so that I can cap this without taking any damage. Unfortunately, had AP loaded there. I'm presuming because that King George V was sailing broadside, but once again, 2 normal penetrations for pretty good damage. Up to 128,781 damage. And you can see the match has changed quite substantially from where we were not too long ago. Finally stealth back up, cap the point. where we were at the beginning of this mess was much, much, much hairier. Much hairier. Okay, did a normal pen, but it took out 2 ships. And you can see we're spending a lot of time alternating between high explosive and the armor piercing. And the reason for that is quite simple. Basically, both are viable on this ship, so there's no reason not to use both. Now this Friedrich der Grosse, he is focused heavily on our Nagato there, who went down, got taken out by a secondary, so we're going to try and slow down and see if we can't maybe get some shells out, but nope. Island decides to poo-poo on that, so we've got choices. We can either go help our Iowa, and obviously there is a Fletcher in there. There he is. Perfect choice, perfect placement on my part. I'm really hoping that this Iowa is able to take him out. That way, by the time I get around the corner, I can actually assist him with that. If he doesn't take him out, I can help him with that. But more or less, he's going to need the help with the Friedrich der Grosse, and sure enough, the King George V picks him off, actually, shooting there through the gap. But the Iowa takes a pretty punishing broadside there from the Friedrich der Grosse, because he is broadside. He's turning out and away from the Friedrich, even though he's got the support of 4 battleships. And down he goes to Fletcher torpedoes. So now we know that the only thing left is the Friedrich der Grosse, and, well, can we get a little bit more damage out of this? That is yet to be seen. One thing is certain, though, points-wise, if we don't kill this Friedrich der Grosse, this will be a loss. So we need to kill him. Trying to get guns over to this mountain range here, this island, and can't quite do it. He's got a pretty good detection on me going. We're going to see here, you can see that I've got my, I've got everything switched over so that when I do shoot at him and he pops up, I will be able to switch right over to AP since he is presenting a pretty good broadside profile. Hoping to get a fire, 2 fires. We will take it. And you can see here, angling to mitigate as much damage as possible. He must not be running IFAG on his secondaries, because I'm not taking a whole lot of secondary damage. Just the occasional amount. Look at these gun angles, though. If I was in a U.S. battleship, the 3rd gun would be pretty close to on there, but it's almost 10 degrees out. And that's, oy, not good. Friedrich der Grosse exposing a broadside. Don't threaten me with a good time. It would be nice if the guns would reload. Oh, goodness. Well, we managed to get one more fire on him. 138,460 plus damage. Need this cap, though, to speed up our capping. We're going to try and duck through, maybe, to head him off at A. Yes, 142,550 damage. No, we're going to go around the long way here. Again, we got 5 minutes, basically, to finish off the Friedrich der Grosse, and if we don't do that, it's going to be a bad day. Well, we're detected, so that means the Friedrich is within his hydro range. But yeah, he's definitely going to A. So you can kind of see how the alternating between high explosive and AP is working out on this. Basically, the ship, if you stack damage, fire damage up against the ships that burn their damage control party, with 1 fire or even 2 fires in close-in engagements, you can see how that's an issue. Boop. Booped him there. You can see how that would be a significant issue. So our Friedrich der Grosse is detecting their Friedrich der Grosse. Trying to get around this island here with this King George V next to me is very difficult. Definitely need him to back off so I don't present a broadside profile to this Friedrich as we come around the corner. We're about to overtake him on points, though. Well, I guess we got 50 points to go. By the time that this match is over, provided we can hold both cap points, I think we'll be good. But okay, Friedrich coming around. He's only got 37,000 hit points. Probably would be smart to preload the AP here. Still coming around the bend. Still got this island in the way. Need a level of patience, though. Still need patience. Don't want to shoot the island. Okay. And HE shells spam 5,600 damage with 5 pens. Not too shabby. The Germans have pretty good resistance there to the HE shell damage from these ships. But the Friedrich der Grosse still broadside sailing. Going pirate broadside, though. Well, I guess our Friedrich was going broadside there. Come on, King George V, get out of the way. Well, we still ended up doing 1,300 damage and still not doing any damage to him. Should have just shot earlier. Alright, so we did end up winning that battle even though we lost all of our ships. 156,169 damage, 2 kills, 10 fires, 2,175 base XP. You can see 57,663 damage done in fires. And overall, the ship, you know, if you're good at maximizing, you know, shooting HE at nose-on targets, AP at broadside targets, you'll do fine in the ship. Play it like a Stealth Iowa build. Anyway, I'm your Peacekeeper. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.